Good afternoon, everybody. It's a Thursday. It means Thursday Night Football. And Matthew and I are here. You know, something went on today, Matt, over at Baylor. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the fallout from that as we go forward with the AD at Baylor deciding maybe, just maybe, it might be nice if I sit some stuff out here for the moment.
Yeah, he chose to step down, and that stepping down, it's more than just him stepping down from the school. It has a larger impact in the fact that he was sitting on the college football playoff committee. He's stepped away from his role there as well. So it's got a ripple effect outside of just Baylor University. What are they under investigation for? Because I still haven't.
The gentleman's name, by the way, for those of you who do not know, the athletic director at Baylor, which I should have mentioned his name, I just assumed everybody know that it's Mack Rhoades. Okay, so Mack's been there for a long time, and a lot of people like him. I mean, he's a very affable guy, but that their allegations basically could be around, and I say could be because they're not totally sure. Title IX student athletes welfare or NCAA rule violations involving, and it does not involve the football program. So, this was his first year on the CFP, and somebody dug out the allegations that there was a physical altercation between a player and an assistant coach that involved Rhoades. So, according to Associated Press, Rhoades approached the tight end Michael Trigg before a home game on September 20th at Arizona State, and put his hands on the player while using an expletive and asking him why he wasn't wearing a long-sleeved yellow shirt under his uniform. Then after the game, according to reports, Rhoades was behind Trigg and some coaches when the AD allegedly grabbed one of the assistant coaches and verbally accosted him. So, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday, Matt and I talked about Brian Kelly and the term cause, and cause getting you fired. Mack Rhoades would have been fired by the end of today had Mack Rhoades not stepped down.
For cause, mind you.
For cause.
I mean, that situation as a whole, just from the reporting, it just makes me go, why? Like, why? Well, as the athletic director, why does it matter if your tight end's wearing a long sleeve yellow shirt or not? Do you not have bigger fish to fry? I know you do. I know you do. I don't understand why you're involved and have that much buy-in to the shirt color of your tight end. It just feels like such an unnecessary. Why?
Well, let's call it what it is. It's stupid. I mean, it's absolutely stupid. Mack knows better than that. I mean, this is a guy who, ran for what the size of the university is. Baylor's not a big school, okay? But if you look at the success Baylor's had in basketball, in the Olympic sports as well as football, it's a pretty damn well-run organization. So for Mack to basically torch his career over a damn shirt or whatever he did, from that standpoint, whether it was, maybe he wanted, everybody else was wearing yellow shirts, maybe they had a deal with Under Armour. I have no idea. But at the end of the day, when you accost a player and an assistant coach, your days will be extremely numbered. And so I believe, Baylor's a very, as I said, very tight university from a standpoint of it's a private school, it's a religious school, it's got a very strong alumni backing, led by, of course, the folks from the Joe and gosh,
The fixture
The Gaines family.
Yep.
You know, Chip and Joanna,
Yep.
And RG3 and those guys. I mean, there's a lot of people who are alumni who love to put money back into the program, and so they've got money is not an issue there. But why Mack would basically blow his career up over something like that, and this is alleged, so let me make that clear. It is an alleged situation. So I think what Mack was doing is getting out of this before things got messy.
Yeah.
Because once the NCAA starts looking into things like that, you basically are on borrowed time. Even if you're found not guilty, there is a stigma that is attached to it. And I think that, Mack, as I said before, smart guy, probably was smart enough at this point to say, you know what, things are only going to get hotter if I'm at, Baylor. And of course, an AD has to interact with coaches, has to interact at times with players. So, I think that Mack being there would be a distraction. Now, whether or not the hierarchy at the university said to him, and we'll never know this, Mack, you may want to resign now, or we may have to fire you come down the road. So we'll see. But yeah, it's just another in a long line of stupid things going on in college sports.
It continues the line of misfortune at Baylor, because Mack Rhoades' time there started directly after Art Briles and all of that got sorted out there. That's fresh off of it after what kind of felt like the death of that football program there for a little while. He was the AD that stepped in after that entire investigation with Art Briles, and now it's kind of
another. And he cleaned it up.
Yeah, he cleaned it up. Yeah, I mean, pretty successful hires. With Matt Rule, who then left for Carolina, and they've got David Aranda, who he's kind of been up and down in his time there, but he's done a solid job there. He did a really good job in terms of the basketball program with head coach Scott Drew and all the success they've had there.
And the ladies' side on Baylor as well.
I was about to say, ladies has done well. If I remember correctly, Kim Mulkey was there before she left to take the job at LSU, which she left to take that job while he was still the AD there. So yeah, he did a fine job. But I guess if he could always run over to the state of Louisiana. They got an athletic director opening, and I don't think they care.
Obviously they don't care.
No. I mean, at this point,
if he could bring Dave Aranda with him, that might be a good deal.
Yeah, no, that might be a half bad deal. Not a half bad deal. I will say something interesting I did see earlier today in terms of LSU and that somebody or some, and I didn't go and I didn't kind of thumb through the different sports books and look at these odds or anything, but I saw somebody had listed Nick Saban as a betting favorite or as the betting favorite to be the next head coach at LSU.
Well, that's a prop bet, right?
Yep.
And prop bets are just basically made up. So, I guess what I'm saying here is if you were, let's say there's the difference in how this works, right? You could have, let's say, this week, Georgia and Texas, right? And the line on that's set, I don't know what the line is, but I'll just say we'll set it 7 points Georgia favorite 7
It's
points.
you just about nailed it. 6.5 in favor of Georgia.
Okay, I was just guessing it would be around 7, but anyway, um, and the line moves as the money moves. Okay, so if people are betting more on Georgia, the line moves up. If people are betting more on Texas, the line moves down. Okay, that's not but on a prop bet, it's driven by almost. I hesitate to use the term, but I think it kind of gives you the idea. It's clickbaitish. Okay.
Yeah.
It if you put out a poll, if you put out there saying Nick Saban's going to be the next coach, you're going to get a lot of money going that direction. Okay. That doesn't mean he's going to do it. It just means that people, the betting people, think, all right, fine, I'll take Nick Saban. But I can't fathom. I just can't fathom Nick taking that job. It
No.
just there's no upside to that. None.
Yeah, no, there isn't. And I mean, if this tells you anything, if Lane Kiffin had moved, or I believe still is currently the betting favorite in terms of a prop bet to land the Florida head coaching job. I'm still of the belief that he's not going to leave. I wrote so in my watch guide that I wrote out today because Florida and Ole Miss play this weekend. And I just don't think they did an interview with one of the Ole Miss commits right now. I think his name's NASCAR, and he said the staff here is telling me that he's staying. Everything that Lane Kiffin said sounds like he's staying, unless there's something that's going on behind closed doors that I'm not privy to, and just the way that college football is. I think he's going to stay. I think that's just kind of the way Lane Kiffin is, and I think he's going to stay, even though he is sitting as the betting favorite. And one more note while we're on the coaching carousel once again, Jeff Brom is working on an extension at Louisville right now, which is a name that's been involved in the Florida head coaching job and the Penn State head coaching job.
Right. That's Papa John's money there.
Yep.
So
yep.
They got money. I've known Lane since he was much younger, because his father Monty was the D coordinator for Tony Dungy when he was at Tampa Bay. And if you look at Lane's career, there's been a lot of jumping around. And I think that perhaps as he's gotten older, he's realized, you know what? There's something to be said for stability. And there's something to be said for, his dad, Monty, coached on the Buccaneers team long after, Tony left.
Yeah.
And then basically when Lane got the job at Tennessee, Monty, decided that it'd be kind of fun to coach with his son. So he jumped, from college. I'm sorry, from the pros over to college.
Yeah.
And coached the defense at Tennessee. But I think that what's happened to Lane is he's matured. And he's realized, okay, I got this Ole Miss job. They love me here. I'm happy here. How much money do I actually need? And do I really want to get down into to start to build something over again when I actually built something here? Would he get more money at Florida or LSU? Absolutely. But would the pressure at Florida and LSU be 5 times what it is at Ole Miss?
Yeah. How much more money would he get? It's not going to be all that much. It's
a risk reward deal, right?
Yeah, when you're getting in terms of the numbers that he'll be at, I would assume that if he does end up staying at Ole Miss, that him staying at Ole Miss would probably coincide with a contract extension of some sort.
Yeah,
or probably include a pay bump as well. So, how much more money are you taking for how much more pressure are you taking? Because
there's that. Yeah, there's that, and the ability to say, live in Mississippi, in Oxford, and be the king of the state?
Yeah.
And then, or do I go to LSU where God knows what's going to happen next, or down to Florida, even though he and Spurrier are very good friends?
Yeah.
So, and
Well,
I'll tell you what, in honesty for Steve, and I'll give him credit for this, he's on that search committee. And Steve said, look, I'm not going to try to coerce anybody into taking the job. They either want the job or they don't want the job. And because he got a lot of, as you might expect, there was a lot of questions about, well, who did, can you and Lane have a great relationship, or you and so have a great relationship? He's got a great relationship with a bunch of coaches.
Yeah.
And so Steve just stopped it and said, wait a minute. No. I'm not going to. He goes, if Lane wants a job, he goes, I would be more than pleased to have him here. However, if Lane likes to stay at Ole Miss, he goes, that's great for him. He goes, whatever he feels is best for him and his family is up to him. It's not up to me. And I thought that was a nice, honest way of looking at how you're looking for your coach. You're looking for a coach who wants to be your coach.
Yeah.
Not someone who, is happy because he's getting paid twice of what he was paid in at another stop along the way. But to your point, I mean, maybe even if LSU or Florida offered him, I'm talking about Kiffin now, total control and X amount of dollars, it just wouldn't. It just may not be enough, because stability, and for the first time in his life, Lane's seems to be happy where he is.
Yeah, he does.
And so, is that to say he wouldn't take the Florida job? I don't know. But I agree with you that I would lean more toward him staying at Ole Miss. And I would also say that anybody out there who thinks he's taking that LSU job is, may very well need psychiatric help.
Yeah. I will say, in terms of the way that Steve Spurrier has gone about that head coaching search and not trying to coerce coaches, that may upset some people, but I can explicitly tell you that is the correct way to do that. If you get Steve Spurrier to go out there and try to buddy up with this guy and sweet talk him into taking a job, then you're getting a guy that's taking a job that honestly may just be like kind of a favor for Steve, and more of a situation than actually wanting the job and really wanting to be in Gainesville. And you talked about living in Mississippi. I can't speak for Baton Rouge. I've only heard stories. I can't speak for Oxford. I've only heard stories. I have been to Gainesville, and having been to Gainesville and heard the stories of both Baton Rouge and Oxford, from my outsider perspective, it sounds like Oxford's the place that you'd want to live, because I was not a fan of my brief stops in Gainesville that I've had thus far.
Well, I've been to Oxford and I've been to LSU. The food's better in Baton Rouge, but
that makes sense.
But over at Oxford, I mean, I'll tell you what, you go to Oxford, Mississippi, and you feel like you stepped into the 60s. And I mean that in a good way.
Okay.
There's that famous situation with the Grove they talk about. It's just a more, I mean, if you think about it, Mississippi does not have professional sports.
No.
The press over there, as long as you're winning, nobody's gonna write a bad thing about you one way or another. And if you can get people to come to that campus, it's a beautiful campus. So, there's a lot of things to like at Mississippi. Okay. Baton Rouge is not a bad place. But they're so football fanatic at Baton Rouge that, you sometimes wonder if they understand the beauty of what they have with the basketball programs, with the gymnastic program, with the baseball programs, and everything else that goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a conversation about a week or two ago with Ben McDonald. Ben was a pitcher at LSU before he, you know, made it to the majors and threw his arm out. But um, Ben was just saying, because I don't get it. He goes, I just do not understand how, LSU went from one of the best, you know, jobs and athletic departments in the country to basically kryptonite at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very upset that how it was all handled.
Yeah.
And that's somebody who gives money to the university and has done a number of projects for the university,
Mm-hmm.
um, and loves saying he's from that university.
Yeah.
And you got Shaq, you know, engaged in this. So
Yeah.
this is not all good. And so we say that to say this. Mr. Rhoades leaving Baylor at the time without too much drama, and I think that's the key here,
Yeah.
shouldn't hurt Dave Aranda.
No, it should not. What's it called? I mean, heck, until you told me pre-show, you know, now granted, I've been doing stuff, haven't really been on my phone a whole lot
Mhm,
this afternoon. I was unaware that Mack Rhoades has stepped down.
mhm.
So, it has remained fairly quiet. Obviously, you've got your stories out there, but unless you're, sitting at your desk scrolling ESPN, just kind of checking things out on your
Right,
lunch break. You're probably not very privy to the fact that Mack Rhoades is out at Baylor. Not only are you not privy to the fact that Mack Rhoades is out at Baylor, you're not privy to the fact that he was on the college football committee in the first place.
right.
So, it I think it's good, the timing and the way that it's been done. If this were to become something bigger, getting out ahead of things, I feel like is always the better option, as
Right.
opposed to the way that LSU handled it in terms of, well, I mean, not even a scandal, but like there's a certain way you go about things, and so far in college football this year, you've seen examples of the way to do it and the way not to do it,
Mhm.
and this is a example of the way to do it.
Yeah, and one last thing on Mac. Um, I hope that wherever his next stop is, that he basically gets his act together because honestly, he's not a bad guy. And you want to, that doesn't mean that he didn't do something poorly,
Mhm,
did something stupid, and that for that he should be punished. There's
mhm,
no doubt. So I'm not carrying Max water on this, but I know that he has done much more good than he's done harm,
mhm,
and so I would hope that he would do whatever it takes, whatever demons are possessing him, to take that time and to, in retrospect, look into himself and figure out, how can I make myself better and come out of this on the other side. And I think that's, the first step, as you said, was the right step, which is rather than, you want to always control the narrative.
mhm,
And Mac saying right now, I'm stepping down because, I want this to play out. I don't want it to be a distraction for Baylor. Um, that probably, it's absolutely the right thing to do, and it might serve him well as he goes on to get another, position.
mhm. Well, in terms of LSU, and speak of their current and famous alumnus, last night Paul Skeens won his second consecutive Cy Young, along with Tarek Skubal, who won his second consecutive Cy Young as well.
That's that's impressive,
It is
you know,
the
for both those guys.
mhm. And not that the competition in the NL wasn't stiff. Christopher
Mhm.
Sanchez, Yamamoto, they had fantastic years. But when you went over to that AL and the Cy Young race that it was, and how well Garrett Crochet pitched this year,
Mhm.
for Tarek Skubal to still win back-to-back Cy Youngs, not only win back-to-back Cy Youngs, but get 26 out of the 30 votes required, or not required, to get 26 out of the 30 votes from the writers was very impressive in and of itself as well. Because Garrett Crochet was no slob this season by any measure. He had a Cy Young season in a
Right.
year where Tarek Skubal isn't pitching, but Tarek Skubal was pitching and he was phenomenal. I thought it was funny. MLB is doing they're doing some form of golf tournament. I think it's going to follow. I think it's going to start tomorrow, and obviously tonight is the MVP selection,
Mm-hmm.
which we can get into as well. But on his golf ball, it writes 2024 Cy Young winner, 2024 Triple Crown winner. Now he can expand the lines out on his golf ball to say 2025 Cy Young winner. And if he keeps pitching the way he has been, he's going to need a ball a little bigger than golf ball.
I was going to ask you how how much. I mean, that Titleist doesn't make them that big. I don't think.
Nope, they don't. They do not.
No, and it's so difficult to do what they did. And that just goes to show you how two players who are so incredibly dominant, um, to do it back to back is just it's hard to do. It's hard to win one. Look
Mm-hmm.
at there's a number of pitchers that never who we all that are in the Hall of Fame never won one.
Yeah, yeah, there is. I will say on the Paul Skeens side of things, and this is more rumor than discussing what he actually did this season.
Mm-hmm.
So try not to spend a lot of time on it. But there was a story that came out. I think it was yesterday or the day before. It's been within the past 48 hours that there was supposedly an anonymous teammate that told a reporter in New York that Paul Skeens talks about wanting to play for the Yankees. And Yankees fans took that and they gobbled it up and they love Paul Skeens and yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
And then Paul last night said, there's a lot of people outside of the city of Pittsburgh who expect us to lose. He
Mm-hmm.
said, in fact, there are 29 fan bases that the expectation is that Pittsburgh's going to lose baseball games and have
Mm-hmm.
a losing season. He said, wouldn't it be really special to be a part of the 26 guys that's able to change that narrative and turn things around? So he shut down the reporting that came out from a quote anonymous teammate, and I don't remember who wrote the piece up there in New York.
Yeah, you're having a little audio.
I am. Hello.
A member of this that won the that won it all when everybody else them such low expectations.
Jim, I missed the first part of that right there.
Okay. All right, let's see. What I said is I was trying to sum up what you had said, and I said you were talking about was it Pirate team that was a championship team, and that thought that would be cool to addressing a Yankee issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So it was I thought it was good for him to shut down those rumors last night, just because, whether or not the rumors are or are not true, it's still something that you're in the off season, you're under contract for years to come in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have an obligation to that city and that organization, however frustrated fans may be at the owner, um, to go out there and do your best, even if your best is giving up a run and losing 1-0 after going 8 innings with 1 run. But it it just kind of calms some of it because you're getting into the season in terms of the MLB this offseason, this talking season, where there's a lot of noise in a lot of places. And speaking of a lot of noise in a lot of places, Tarek Skubal is another name that there's going to be noise, already has been noise about this offseason, potentially getting moved because of his unwillingness to sign a contract extension in Detroit.
Mm-hmm. Are you there still?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I just want to make sure that, yeah, what happens in those cases is they'll go to fan bases, they'll go to, they'll go to Los Angeles, they'll go to where, wherever they can, on the situation where, um, opposite fan bases, opposing fan bases will, wear Skeens jerseys that they've mocked up from wherever they are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I, Paul Skeens to me looks like the kind of guy who wants to find a home and pitch,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't want all the outside, distractions.
Yeah.
He's not a diva. He's not anybody who, he just seems like he reminds me of a young Max Scherzer in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
That the temperament is, I want to play with these guys because these guys are my friends,
Yeah.
and I want to be a player on this team. Now, the team he's got right now, they. I think if you look, the Pirates have, and they've got a good pipeline of players. The Pirates have the kind of team that could be a Cincinnati Reds next year.
They do. To be honest with you, I think people kind of had them pegged as a team that could pop this year.
Mm-hmm.
With they had Jared Jones who got hurt. He's a fantastic pitcher. They have Mitch
Mm-hmm.
Keller, who's very good in his own respect. They had Henry Davis, a former number one overall prospect, former number
Mm-hmm.
one overall pick. They have O'Neal Cruz patrolling center field, who is a 6'7" freak of nature in terms of how hard he can hit the baseball. That when he's got the tools that he has, because he
He looks
has,
like a power forward.
yeah, he's big, he's strong, he's one of the fastest runners in Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So they need him to make a little more contact, but still, these are all pieces that they have in this system, and they had Brian Hayes, which they traded ironically enough to Cincinnati this past season. They had a very young and talented roster in a lot of ways, but when you have a young and talented roster, and this is something that the Red Sox are coming up on, and I'm fairly familiar with in terms of that scenario, you have to supplement your young roster with free agency spending. If you don't do that, there's a potential that you don't have a really good veteran presence in the locker room in terms of winning, because a veteran that has won and knows how to win is important. And two, you still are going to have holes. You're not going to fill all your holes through the farm system, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to go supplement through free agency, but that's not something that Pittsburgh has been willing to do. And I mean, I'm not even talking like go out and sign the best players, but just go get some mid-level guys and spend some money, fill some of your holes with some higher end talent, to where you can allow these guys to really come into their own with help around them in the lineup and the pitching staff as well.
Well, there are guys who will surprise you, right?
Mm-hmm.
A signing that when I was covering the Washington Nationals that nobody paid attention to. It was basically it was a sign and trade deal. Uh, Brought a guy over to, Nationals Park by the name of Kyle Schwarber that, you know, most of the country didn't know much about.
Mm-hmm.
And now he might be the hottest free agent on the market.
He is going to, in terms of the money that he's going to get this offseason,
Mm-hmm.
from what I've seen, the early evaluations are people are essentially going to be paying him because he is going to be a primary DH. You
Mm-hmm.
may get him to play some first base wherever he may be. Maybe you need like a spot start in the outfield, and maybe he gives you that. But you're essentially going to be paying Kyle Schwarber like David Ortiz if he
Right.
were to have hit free agency at his age 34 season, like Kyle
Right.
Schwarber did.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be unprecedented money in terms of a primary DH.
Absolutely. And, it was one of those things where he proved to everybody, that he was a guy who deserved to be where he is. And I think that to me was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think the best part about Kyle is just how he knows how to endure himself to a fan base. I mean,
Mhm.
he spent what 2.5 3 months in Boston, and
Yeah.
people are like on Twitter and the fan base in general are like sprinting to go sign him. And the second
Mhm.
that he signs, they will be running to the team store to either
Mhm.
get his jersey or personalize a jersey to where it is his
Right.
and all this other stuff. Like this is a guy that when you sign him, yes, you're getting a DH, yes, you're getting 56 home runs and all that slug that he brings, but you're also getting like just a really good team guy and a guy that the fan base is always going to love.
Well, I will tell you, with the Nationals in Philadelphia, the players love him. He was a beloved player in the Washington Nationals locker room, and he was a beloved player in the Philadelphia locker room. And so wherever he lands, and I don't think it's going to be Philadelphia, um, it is very likely going to be a change of scenery for him, and he'd look good in a Boston Red Sox uniform.
Yeah, he sure would. He sure would. I'm
Not
just sitting
sure
back.
it's where he's going, but he'd look
Yeah,
good in that Boston.
yeah. I'm sitting back and I'm crossing my fingers. And after the offseason they had last year, I'm just going to kind of trust the front office to go spend some money and pull the correct strings because they pulled the correct strings last offseason too. Whether or
Yeah.
not people want to give Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow his credit or not,
Hmm.
because there is a subset of fans in Boston that just want to still be angry and losing baseball games and blaming them and not spending money on John Henry.
I
But
think, yeah. No, go ahead. I was going
I
to.
was just going to say I don't think that's the way they're operating anymore. They pulled the right strings last off season, and I believe in them to pull the right strings this off season, which is probably going to be one of Kyle Schwarber or Pete Alonso.
I would, you know, either guys is would be nice in Boston, but I think if if you're gonna make one move, right,
Mm-hmm.
that the fan and you don't have to make any other move, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think if they signed Schwarber and didn't sign anybody else, that the fan base would be happy.
I think you've greatly overestimated the Boston Red Sox fan base and
Probably, yes.
how ornery they have been. If they signed Kyle Schwarber, people would be very happy for about 3 days.
Right.
And after those 3 days are over, they're like, all right, who's next? Where's our starting pitcher? What about Alex Bregman? Are we re-signing him? So, but no, he is that kind of guy that can have that impact on a fan base, a clubhouse, and just an organization as a whole.
Well, I forgot for a moment whose fan base I was talking about with regards to the Red Sox. Um, the funny thing about it, um, the Red Sox, before they won the World Series, they were always the team that, people said, that's just they're a gutsy, gritty little ball club that, if they could just get this guy or that guy, that would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And now, you know, present company accepted, um, there's some pretty obnoxious Boston Red Sox fans.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And, I don't, and I'm looking at them like, dude, I mean, it hasn't been that long ago you didn't win these things.
Mm-hmm.
So, I, like you said, you know, Schwarber, they may sign Schwarber, but the next morning they're looking for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I, all you want to do is win baseball games, boys.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
you know, fans fans can be very fickle. I get it, but
yep.
you know,
I can tell you that I've had some interactions with people that live in the subset of a bit obnoxious
mm-hmm,
and ornery. I had done an interview a while back for a podcast based around the Boston Red Sox.
mm-hmm,
Throughout that interview process, one of the questions I was asked was well, who would you hire as manager? Um, if instead of Alex Cora. And now, granted, I didn't get the wording on that perfect, but basically they were looking forward ahead to the next manager, and this was earlier this was at like the start of this season, and I just looked at him and said, I don't know who I'd hire instead of Alex Cora because I don't think Alex Cora deserves to be fired. Like I don't know what we're doing here in terms of that. So they are there, and it seems like they've gotten a lot louder after 2018 and a season in which the Red Sox won the World Series.
Right.
But yeah, they are there and getting increasingly louder.
Okay. Alonso, yeah, Pete's good. Pete's defensively a good first baseman and can hit. So if they needed a first baseman who could hit, he wouldn't be a bad second choice there. And that might be somebody that's on their wish list. I don't know how much money that John Henry and the Fenway team are going to spend on the roster this year. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
and like you said, you have to trust the GM to figure out what goes. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. All right. So let's see. This is something that I know you can talk about because you're there. There have been some reports out there. USA Today has had a report on it. I've seen Sporting News with reports on it, talking that the Texas-Georgia game this week might be the single most important game between two teams in, thus far in the SEC season. Your thoughts on is that overhyping the game, or is that relatively accurate?
I think that's just people overvaluing the Texas brand. To be quite frank, because they see it as such, because this is a game that will knock Texas out of the playoffs. If Texas has 3 losses, they're out of the playoffs. Not only if Texas has 3 losses, but Texas will then have to play Texas A&M a couple weeks down the road, and that could, give them the 4th loss. And even though they would already be pretty much out of the playoff, that would make it a definite that they're out of the playoff. In terms of Texas and Georgia this weekend, though, it's a game that, at least myself personally, I have a bad taste in my mouth left from Texas last year. I mean, these are people that came in to the SEC, and for all year, and all you really heard was how they came in and they're running the SEC and they're gonna run the SEC, and they ran those clips on College Game Day. There, you can go look up clips of Desmond Howard saying there's a new sheriff in town in terms of Texas. I'm pretty sure the whole dadgum desk picked them when Georgia and Texas were playing in Austin last year. But quite frankly, luckily enough for everybody in the state of Georgia that roots for Georgia, Kirby Smart doesn't really care about the headlines. What Kirby Smart cares about is the fact that they barely eclipsed 60 rushing yards across 2 games against Georgia last year. And their offense was obsolete in those 2 games, and saved some bottles being thrown on a field, allowing the refs to look at the screen, pick up a flag, and essentially review something in real time that's a non-reviewable play. Texas would have been handled in that first game in a much more embarrassing fashion. And then, oh, by the way, they let a quarterback playing his first game in the SEC title come back on him in the second half. And then you see him circling back around this year, and these guys carry the same sense of entitlement that they were going to come in and run the SEC despite getting the softest draw that you can possibly get in terms of an SEC schedule. But there's no bottles to be thrown on Saturday in Athens. There's no 5-star Manning sitting on the bench that's going to come save you. Oh, by the way, he played last year against Georgia, and he didn't look good either. Coming to save them this week in Austin, or this week in Athens. What's going to have to happen is Texas is going to have to take that team that's been up and down and has not been good on the road. So far on the road this year, they've lost to Ohio State. They've lost to Florida. They should have lost to Mississippi State, and they beat Kentucky by 3 points. They have not been a good road team. This is a different atmosphere than all of those other ones. And they're going to have to come in here and they're going to have to beat Georgia straight up. And I don't think they can do that. And I think Texas is going to be reminded of just exactly who they've been since Mack Brown left. And that's a middle of the road football team.
Yeah, I think that you're right there. And the other part of the equation is the arrogance of Texas, because they were, they called the shots in the Big 12, literally. And that includes over Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
Which at times, when Oklahoma had much better football teams than Texas, it's still Texas got the last word on everything in that league. But it's a whole lot different when you're going to Athens, when you're going to Gainesville, when you're going to Tuscaloosa, when you're going up to Knoxville. Ain't none of these people afraid of you. Ain't none of these people gonna bow down to the horns.
Nope.
And they damn sure ain't gonna do it at Texas A&M. I guarantee you that. So yeah, there's always with Texas, there's a bit of an arrogance, and they left the Big 12 to come to the SEC, and what they got is a whole bunch of competition, and not one of these teams. Even Vanderbilt, they're not afraid of Texas. There's not anybody in the Southeastern Conference that when the Longhorn helmet and that jersey step on the field shudder that, oh my God, we're playing Texas.
Vanderbilt lost by 3 in Austin this year.
Right.
It's not. I think the thing that would really drove me, or what left that bad taste in my mouth, is they came into the SEC looking down their nose at what they deemed to be 15 teams that were less than them. They believe Austin to be some holy place, apparently, and the University of Texas to be the greatest thing on earth in terms of a university. And it's just not. And their football team hasn't been. And all I heard was how Texas is going to come in and run the SEC, and Texas is going to come in and win this SEC title. And what I've got is I've now got a banner that I've hung on my Twitter occasionally on and off between baseball season and football season of Greg Sankey handing Kirby Smart the SEC championship trophy, looking like his dogs just died last year. So you can take all your holier than thou, this, that, and the other, and shove it. You got stomped twice last year, and you're going to get stomped again this year.
Well, it's funny. You've got, when I worked in Texas, in Houston, we had we had Houston and Rice, which I handled their games, and we didn't get many Texas or Texas A&M games because they were national games. So, but we had a ton of Texas and Texas A&M graduates that worked with us, and it was. I mean, Texas was all anybody in the state of Texas talked about, except of course in Houston. They were not necessarily bowing down to the horns, but they've got what at one point in time Alabama had with the SEC, where they felt a superiority to the rest of the teams in the conference. Like why are we even playing? So we're going to beat everybody. And I got to say, the coach in defense of Sarkisian, it's not him.
No,
it's not him at all. That's not his style. And I bet you if you sat down with him and Kirby, you'd see a lot of the same person. The same temperament, the same way that they like doing things. They're not. Neither one of them are camera hogs that want to get the next best soundbite. They like to go and coach football teams. They're
Mhm.
not people who are prone to hyperbole. Um,
Mhm.
those of you who know Urban Meyer would understand how the other way could go the other way.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, in some regards, I feel bad for Sark because it's not him that's propping him up.
Mm-mm.
It's the media, and
Mm.
and I can't, I don't understand. I don't. I mean, I I've covered football for a long time. I, good when you see it,
Yeah. I
and that
mean,
ain't good. Okay,
yeah.
and if if I can sit down with Sarkeesian and he'd tell me it's not good. You know,
Mhm.
it's not like he's gonna go out there and basically say, well, gosh, that's the you know if we only had if he's not one of these guys who makes excuses like if the ref had done this, or if we if the wind was this way, or the turf was that way. He's not looking for excuses.
Mhm.
He's looking for how do we win these football games.
Yeah, the thing that I'm curious to see, not that nothing else has followed, except for there has been Texas had a decommit this past week,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a statement made alluding to how there might be more that follow. And that's the only thing that I've got linking that earlier report in the season from Diana Rossini in
Mm-hmm.
terms of interest in NFL jobs. And obviously, Steve Sarkisian got up there and vehemently denied it.
Mm-hmm.
He was upset by it. Jimmy Sexton and CAA put out a statement regarding it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it does make me wonder if he might be feeling a little bit of that Texas heat and really just kind of be wanting something. I hate to say it simpler, I guess, in terms of all the noise that goes around it. Because I mean, it's not just like the Texas beat writers who love Texas, because the beat
No.
writers who love Texas, Paul Feinbaum had practically a love affair with Arch Manning in the entire SEC preseason. And it didn't stop after they lost to Ohio State. He kept it going until they lost to Florida. And after they
Mm-hmm.
lost to Florida, he's like, all right, maybe we pump the brakes. But that's what it took. And so the media does love Texas. Texas is the media's darling. I don't know why that is. In terms of the actual football game being played and stuff that goes into it statistically, I can tell you that Texas is going to roll in there with the number 2 rush defense in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that Georgia's running game is worlds different than it was last year. It was
Mm-hmm.
hanging around somewhere in the 70s last year. I think it's 22 this year in terms
Mm-hmm.
of rushing offense per game. It's two different teams with different tasks. But the thing about Steve Sarkisian and that offense is it's very similar, and you can game plan for it. And Kirby Smart and his staff did a very good job both games last year, because it's hard to beat a good team twice. That's one of
Yep.
the more famous coach speak lines of all time. And you might hear people say it this week in terms of talking about Texas and reverting back to last year. It's hard to beat a good team twice, but they did it twice last year. And they did it on the defensive side of the football in a year where Georgia's defense was good, but it wasn't great. Again, it's a similar trend to this year. Georgia's defense has been good, but it hasn't been Georgia's defense of when Kirby Smart won those 2 national championships in 21 and 22, heck, even
Mm-hmm.
23 for that matter. But how familiar they are with Steve Sarkisian and his offense and Arch Manning and who he is as a player, because this is a guy that was recruited extremely heavily by Kirby Smart and his staff to come to Georgia. So there's a lot of familiarity on both sides of this football. And if Sark doesn't come in with something new and he sticks to a very similar offensive script that he typically does, then they're probably going to have problems again in Athens, Georgia on Saturday night.
Well, it's going to be fun to watch. So that we will do. Um, let's just touch for a minute before we get out of here on tonight's Thursday night game, the
Mm-hmm.
Jets and New England. You got a New England team that might be at the moment the hottest team in the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
and you got a Jets team that might be not as team in the NFL. They got problems in New York with and tonight is the night the Jets are going to um, get it right because they're going to Foxborough to play that game.
Yeah, that's a tough draw for New York. Just they obviously had, in terms of organizational, they had the passing of Nick Mangold, and then they followed it up with trading away half their defense.
Mm-hmm.
It's and now they have to go to New England and play what is arguably the hottest team in football, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the guys that is either the betting favorite, or B, one of the favorites for the MVP trophy in Drake May.
Right.
And you've got to, I mean, just put it simply, you've got an offense that's finding itself too. They played well in Tampa last weekend.
Yep.
They've found a lot more balance. Travion Henderson had a really good week last week. His best game overall as a pro. He scored 2 touchdowns last week. So, and as someone who drafted Travion Henderson expecting that a little bit earlier in the season on my fantasy team, I can tell you it's something that I've been waiting for a while now. But no, they've got an uphill battle because Justin Fields still just hasn't found it as their quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
Well, Jameis Winston's quarterbacking.
the Jets.
I believe so.
I thought they had moved back to Justin Fields. Jameis Winston's on the Giants.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I got them screwed. I got the New York team screwed up.
Okay, yeah, but so they've got their work cut out for them. First year head coach Aaron Glenn has not had necessarily an easy go of it, and what has been a bit of a tumultuous season in the Meadowlands for the Jets.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Tough times in Jersey. All right. Well, tell you what, gang. Tomorrow we're going to be at our new Friday times, which will be at noon. So get your peanut butter and jelly sandwiches together, and we'll get back out here and have some fun. Tomorrow's we take a look at some very interesting games over the weekend that have something to do with playoff implications. One of which we have been speaking about today with Texas and Georgia. We'll get a little bit more into it. Matt will give us his 5-star games to watch, and we'll uh, get an opportunity to kind of delve into that. And by that time, we should know. You're saying tonight they're announcing the MVP awards in Major League Baseball. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see who they are. I'm guessing, just guessing, that the National League would be Otani.
I believe so.
And on the American League side, maybe Judge.
Yeah, there's going to be I think there'll be a large outcry if Judge wins the MVP, in terms of there's a lot of people that like Cal Raleigh and have discussed what Cal
Yeah.
Raleigh has done behind the plate in terms of the value that it provides, which I wholeheartedly agree with. He
Yeah.
has provided a lot of value, being able to be a catcher and be successful defensively as a catcher and game planning. Also, you pair that along with what he did at the plate, is very impressive.
Yeah.
But Aaron Judge deserves to be your AL MVP. He is almost 100 points better in every major statistical category in terms of hitting. He is the better hitter. He is more valuable to the New York Yankees. I mean, this is a team that was planning to blow it up
Right.
when they thought that he might have been done for the season right there at the trade deadline. So
Mm-hmm.
he is the MVP. He played like the MVP, and he is, because I'm a diehard Red Sox fan and I
Right.
hate the Yankees, but he does deserve it.
Well, I think Cal Raleigh's probably the best catcher since Johnny Bench.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, and that's me saying that is taking absolutely nothing away. I
Oh
am
no, I know.
wholeheartedly acknowledging that he did a fantastic season, a season that I think, in a similar way to Garrett Crochet, that if it was anybody else, that you would deserve the AL MVP.
Sure.
I will preface it with this: just because I think Aaron Judge deserves it, does not mean that I necessarily think he will win it.
Right. It's it should be a close ballot.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that he has on his side is he plays in New York and Cal plays out in Seattle.
Yeah, that is a bit of
There's a huge there's a huge bias from the Major League Baseball sports writers who cover the teams to be heavy duty into the eastern portion of the United States, which is not necessarily fair. Um, Otani being the unicorn kind of transcends that, but
yeah.
it's the noise coming from what Cal Raleigh's done, which, as you chronicled just a minute ago, is epic from all possible measures. But Judge is Judge, and
Yep.
until he stops being Judge, it's very likely he's going to be the guy.
Absolutely.
So anyway, we'll see tomorrow when we talk, and again, check out noon tomorrow. Okay, not we won't be around here this time. You'll be if you tune in tomorrow. This time we'll be looking at horses.
Yep.
Not us. But
I was gonna. I'm
go
gonna
ahead.
throw a final note in here because I got the notification just a few minutes ago. The College Football Playoff Committee has already replaced Rhoades with Hunter Yurachek, the current sitting Arkansas athletic director.
Okay, bad news for the Big 12, but good news for Arkansas. It's important to have your guys in the room where it happens, and for the Big 12 to lose Mack his seat in that office, in that room, that's not helpful. But we all understand that now is the time for Mack to step down, and he did. So there you go. All right, boys and girls, we will see you tomorrow at noon. For Matt, I'm Jim. Take